Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now every month Steam, the platform where most of us get our PC games from, conduct a survey to determine what sort of hardware its users have inside of their PCs. Now this is entirely optional, but apparently it gives the company a good idea of sort of what direction to go in or something like that. Personally, I think they're just being a little bit nosy, and I don't blame them because I myself always like to check out the hardware survey, which is publicly available, to see what sort of trends there are in terms of what sort of graphics cards people are buying, what CPUs people are buying, and all that information is available to everyone at the Steam website. Now of course, among the most popular graphics cards are things like the GTX 1060, 1050 Ti, and the GTX 750 Ti is also still pretty high up as well, in 5th or 6th place. Now these choices are pretty obvious, they're all popular cards in their own right, but I prefer to check out what's at the bottom, what sort of graphics cards are not only in decline when it comes to how many people are using them, but are actually still being used, and what sort of percentage of people are actually running games with them. So scrolling to the very bottom of this list, and you'll find Nvidia's GT440, which is currently being used by 0.15% of the Steam PC gamers who took part in last month's hardware survey, although this is up a little bit from last month. I'm also pretty surprised to see cards from AMD's Radeon HD 6800 series in second to last place here as well, but of course that doesn't specify which exact card. Could it be the 6850, the 6870? So our primary focus today isn't going to be with that. Instead, I thought it would be interesting to see what it's like to game on Steam's most unpopular graphics card. Of course, this isn't fully representative of the entire PC gaming population, as not everyone takes part in the Steam hardware survey. I just thought it would be a little bit of fun. We've never tested the GT440 before anyway. So, without further ado, let's get into some games and see how the most unpopular graphics card performs in a few modern titles. So, to give ourselves the best fighting chance, I thought it was only fair to use a GDDR5 version of a GT440. And not only that, but a 1GB card as opposed to a DDR3 variant. As you probably expected, the 440 can be found pretty cheaply second hand, but can also be quite hard to find in some countries. It's hard to say exactly why the 440 is at the bottom of this list, but someone has to come last, right? Actually, the Nvidia 930M is technically last, but that is a mobile GPU, and I wanted to focus on desktop components here. First off, let's start with what you can play, like Assassin's Creed 3 for example. At 900p with the normal or lowest in-game settings, we were able to achieve a plus 30 FPS average, which isn't too bad. I remember buying this game on PlayStation 3 when it first came out 6 years ago, and it looked very similar to this. I believe the console version ran at 720p, so you will have a better experience here than you would on last-gen consoles, if you're looking for a comparison. 2013's, or for us PC users 2015's GTA 5 will also run on the 440. You'll have to turn things way down to 720p and use the lowest in-game settings, but doing so will net you a pretty respectable 40 plus FPS average. During what I like to call my custom benchmark run, or driving through the military base avoiding system intensive explosions, the frame rate remained steady throughout and I could happily play this game using this GPU. As you make your way into the busy suburbs and the city, you can expect a slight variation in frame rate, but there won't be a massive drop. The card will run at 99 or 100% a lot of the time though, which is good in this case because it means that what you see here is the absolute best that this card can do. It was time to move on to the more demanding stuff now, and thanks to The Witcher 3's always deceiving start menu, I thought we were in for a playable-ish experience, though jumping into combat or even just walking around the map revealed the true capabilities of the 440. 1024x768 resolution combined with the lowest graphical settings and post-processing settings didn't really serve us all that well, but I think that was to be expected. It wasn't as bad as Far Cry 5 though, which proved quite the pain to run. I will say here that I forgot to mess around with the resolution scaling modifier, so this was running at native 720p, but I don't think that would have made things too much better. It certainly would have helped, but it would have ended up making everything a big pixely mess. Hey, that's fine if you want to do whatever it takes to get a game running, but don't expect anywhere near 30 frames per second under any circumstances. Montana still looks pretty good though, even at low settings, and Far Cry 5 remains one of my favourite games to release this year, even though I haven't really had a chance to play much else yet. Now, Battlefield 1 will creep ever so slightly closer to that 30 FPS threshold here, which was quite surprising to be honest. I did get an initial warning that my graphics card was below the minimum requirements, followed by a game-breaking start menu glitch that forced me to use a controller instead of a traditional keyboard and mouse. But once we were past the stuttering and flickering and the game had loaded up into the first mission, the experience was honestly not all that bad. I've certainly used worse cards, and ones that are definitely more deserving of bottom place in Steam's popularity contest. Time to test a couple of Battle Royale games now, starting with PUBG. At 720p with 70% resolution scaling, as well as the low in-game settings, we saw an average frame rate that hovered around the mid-20s. These were the game's lowest settings, so there is no improving this figure, without of course modifying perhaps the INI files, but there were actually some instances, like inside buildings for example, where that frame rate peaked above 30. Still, it's probably not an ideal experience for an online competitive shooter, but it's not as bad as some of you may have thought. Fortnite on the other hand, well, that maintained at least 30 FPS most of the time. Everything was set to low here and the resolution was set to 720p once again. I'm surprised this game ran this well because although it doesn't look all that great graphics wise, its use of the Unreal Engine does mean some GPUs and CPUs struggle quite a lot. Overall, to the 0.16% of you Steam users out there still rocking the GT440, you'll be pleased to know that just because you're at the bottom of the popularity list, you don't own the worst card out there, especially when it still supports DirectX 12 in fact. Remember, this video was just a bit of fun and I have no way of telling what is the least used card among the entire PC gaming community, but it'll be interesting to see whether this one moves up or down the list as we move into October. So there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it. If you didn't, leave a dislike on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let me know if you own a GT440 down below in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.